Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all in this true from the well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit, and I'm going to entitle this one, Riches, Profit Not in the Day of Wrath. Because right now you have a lot of our people, the nation of Israel, well, 2/3 of the nation of Israel comprised of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But even these other heathen nations, the so-called white people, so-called Indians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Arabs, whatever heathen nation it may be, they have that mindset that all the riches, all the wealth that they've been amassing, that they've been building up over the years, that somehow is going to deliver them when all hell breaks loose. And yeah, some of them might get away from the plagues. They might get away from the different pestilences, diseases, civil wars, all the plagues that are going to be sent by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. But if they're here in America, which is Babylon the Great, they may get away from all the plagues, but that seventh plague, which is going to be the ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, that's going to be the final plague to judge the wicked of the 2/3 of the nation of Israel and the heathens that are left here in America. Chiefly those who take the MOTB for wanting those riches that they got taken away when Esau Edom crashed the system. So a lot of our people, when all the riches that they've been building up, gold, silver, cryptocurrencies in the stock market, 401ks, pensions, houses, mansions, exotic cars, especially these celebrities, a lot of them are going to be crying out to the white man to get that back. And he's going to offer them a portion of it, but ultimately they're going to have to take the MOTB, which is a micro CHIP, to get a remnant of those riches that they built up over their lifetime. And 2/3 of our people, they're going to take that because a lot of them are going to be at that point where they're just poor without nothing. And it's to the point where, oh shit, you already poor, so why not just take the MOTB to micro CHIP if you already broke as it is? And then on the other hand, you're going to have these celebrity Jays that are pretty well off for themselves, the Kanye West, the Jay-Z's, the Tyler Perry's, people like that are rich, that are going to take the MOTB to get a portion of the so-called riches that they've built up over the years in Babylon the Great, America. But ultimately, all those riches, all that wealth that they've been building up, thinking that it was going to be a way to pay the Heavenly Father out of judgment, they're going to be sadly mistaken. Instead, they're going to receive a harsher judgment, which is going to be the second death, which is going to be caused by the intercontinental ballistic missiles. But the elect, they're not going to be putting their bets on these earthly riches, these earthly treasures, which are going to be done away with very soon. They're going to put their eggs all in one basket, which is in the kingdom of heaven, receiving deliverance through Yahweh Shai. That's what the elect are going to be putting their bets on, not on these earthly riches and the US dollars and gold and silver. Yeah, ultimately, they allow us to get our daily bread, go into these 9-to-5s to allow us to pay our bills and mainly to do the work, to be able to do the work. But ultimately, we know that we're going to have to walk away from this very soon when Esau Edom makes that MOTB mandatory. This is Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 4. Riches profit not in a day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. Yeah, so riches are not going to profit these 2/3 Jakes, that especially those who know that they're Israelites, these 501c3 camps that are making a merchandise out of the Lord's house. When Esau, Edom crashes the system, their mindset is, okay, I've been building up these hundreds of thousands of dollars, these millions, these gold and silver coins. I'm going to pay Esau, Edom to not come down on me so hard, but Esau, Edom don't care about that. Ultimately, it's all of Yahweh Shemiah Shai if you're part of his elect. Not if you've been building up all this gold and silver and all these US dollars and hiding them under your mattresses. Because a lot of Jake has been in that mindset that, okay, I know that this economy is going to crash, but let me stock up on these US dollars, on this gold and silver. So when it bounces back, which we know that's not going to happen, the only way it's going to bounce back is by the MOTB, but that's going to be very short-lived when those missiles get shot over here. That's to the point where Esau Edom thinks that, okay, I got my NWO system up and running. I got the whole world under my palm. I'm chilling. But that's when Yahweh Shemiah Shai is going to throw that monkey wrench, and he's going to bring this devil down. He's going to destroy this system, and he's going to bring this devil down by the intercontinental ballistic missiles. They're going to be shot over here to America to utterly destroy the 2/3 of our wicked ass people and the rest of these heathens. So that those riches aren't going to deliver them. Because Jake, they love to trust in Esau Edom. They love to trust in his system. But ultimately, that's going to be the snare and trap that's going to get them destroyed. This is Psalms 62 and verse 10. Trust not in oppression, and become not vain of robbery. If riches increase, set not your heart upon them. Yeah, and the elect, we're not trusting in this system. We're not trusting in oppression, in this slavery, in this slave debt-based system that our people love to trust in. Because we know that this current system being ran by the US dollar is going to be done away with very soon. It's being done away with Donald Trump signing all these different laws. He just signed a genius bill last Friday, which is making the way for the MOTB system to get set up, because the elites, the wicked elites, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, they're doing away with this US dollar. But yet Jake is still out here chasing a bag, trying to chase generational wealth, build generational wealth for their family down the line. But we know that this is the generation where Yahweh Shai is going to make his return, when he's going to crack the skies. Because this devil, he knows that he has a short time, so he's trying to get his system up and running. But yet Jake is still out here trusting in oppression, trusting in the American dream, trusting in the US dollar, trusting in black culture, trusting in that American philosophies and that American wine, that Babylonian wine, which has gotten our people completely drunk. Straying or parting away from Yahweh Shemiah Shai for trusting in this devil. This is Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 7. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, yet hath great riches. And that's a majority of our people. They're making themselves rich in this life because ultimately they don't want to sacrifice this life. They don't want to walk away from certain jobs to be able to serve Yahweh Shemiah Shai. Maybe even walk away from certain family members to serve Yahweh Shemiah Shai. So they're making themselves rich in this life, but they're forsaking the kingdom of heaven. But the elect, they're walking away from certain opportunities, certain job opportunities to make time for the ministry. Leaving certain family members behind, leaving certain things of the world to serve Yahweh Shemiah Shai. But a lot of our people, they look down upon it. They're like, oh, how are you forsaking this life? How are you walking away from all this money that you could make? You can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can make these millions. How are you walking away from that? You're an idiot. You're dumb. They call you bums. But ultimately we're sacrificing this life for the kingdom of heaven. But a lot of our people don't get that. They look down upon that, because they're so used to being told that You got to make a bag in his life to be something. But now it's obvious that chasing all this money is going to amount to nothing, because very soon this system is going to be done away with. But yet the elect are storing up those treasures of heaven, while 2/3 of our people, they're building up here in Babylon the Great, which Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is going to throw down. This is Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 19. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of wrath of the Lord, Yahweh Bashmiel Shai. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is the stumbling block of their iniquity. So all the wealth that our people are building up right now, trying to establish generational wealth, because in their mindset they think that America has a very long time, they're going to be sadly mistaken. Because when Esau Edom crashes the system, when he makes that MOTB made mandatory, all that gold and silver, US dollars that our people have been stashing up, Esau Edom's going to be like, nah, shit, that's no good. Or maybe you could turn it in, but you're going to get a very small portion for all that wealth that you've been stashing up under your mattress. And then our people are going to be bugging out. They're going to be like, damn, here I've been building all this wealth my whole life. Now the white man's telling me that it's no good. They're going to completely bug out. They're just going to throw it on the streets, lose their minds. And you already got a lot of people losing their minds. They're being laid off. Their 401ks are getting wiped out. Their pensions are getting taken away. So ultimately, that's Yahweh Bashmiel Shai letting our people, the 2/3 who haven't repented, to be bugged out. Ultimately for trusting in these riches, to be able to deliver them when all hell breaks loose. When the system collapses, Yahweh Bashmiel Shai letting them trust in these corruptible riches. So when all hell breaks loose, they're going to bug out. They're not going to have a leg to stand on. They're not going to have stability. This is Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 8. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. And that's the mindset that the elect are in. The mindset that the elect are going to be in isn't going to be chasing riches, chasing a bag to be millionaires and billionaires, or to the point where you're just out in the street homeless. Some brothers might be homeless for a period, but that's ultimately Yahweh Bashmiel Shai attesting that brother's faith, because every brother has his lot. Some brothers' lot is to have more money, and then some brothers' lot is to not have as much money, just to get by. But ultimately, that's Yahweh Bashmiel Shai putting each brother in his correct lot, because some brother may be able to handle all that money, but some brothers, they may not be able to handle all that money. So Yahweh Bashmiel Shai gives each brother, each member of the hopeful elect, as much as he sees fit for them to be able to do the work and continue to serve in truth and sincerity. Because Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is not going to give a brother more than he can handle, because then it will destroy that brother. Or he's not going to give less than what that brother needs, because then he will be out on the streets homeless, be bugging out. Like it says right here in verse 9, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my power in vain. And that's right, a lot of these celebrity jakes, these 2/3 jakes that are in the world that are doing pretty good for themselves. A lot of them, they're millionaires, they're business owners. They're not worried about the Lord. These celebrity jakes, these rappers, these ball players, these Jay-Z's, these Kanye West, Tyler Perry's, they're not worried about Yahweh Bashmiel Shai. They got their consolation. They're chilling. When all hell breaks loose, and their mindset is, okay, shit, Rick Ross, so I built a bunker. I got a water maker. Shit, I'm good. I don't need Yahweh Bashmiel Shai. That's what these celebrities, these 2/3 jakes that are rich, that receive their consolation on their side are saying. They're saying they don't need the Lord. And that's why when Yahweh Bashmiel Shai brings these great plagues, Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is going to make them eat those words. He's going to make them remember when you said you didn't need me? Then shit, you don't need me. Shit, trust in your riches to deliver you. Let that that water maker in that bunker deliver you, and those Maybachs and all those Lambos. The same thing with the homeless. The homeless aren't worried about Yahweh Bashim Yahushai because they're out there on the streets, bugging out, looking through trash cans, looking for food to eat. They're not worried about the Lord. That's ultimately why Yahweh Bashim Yahushai has given his elect just the right amount so they could get through and be able to do the work. The daily bread, food, shelter, being able to pay, the internet and have transportation to get to camp and to be able to do the work. This is Matthew chapter 6 and verse 19. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. And that's what the elect would be doing. They're not laying up treasures here upon earth like the 2/3 are doing. Laying up all these corruptible treasures in the stock market, stocking up on gold and silver. Yeah, that might be able to get you through, for a short period amount of time. But then eventually, Esau Edom is going to make everything digital to the point where you're going to have that MOTB, that micro CHIB, that Charagma to be able to participate in society. And that's where Esau Edom is going to break through and steal those corruptible riches. But Esau Edom, he can't take the treasures up that are stored in heaven. He can't get to those. That's ultimately why Esau Edom is trying to have the whole world MOTB'd up, micro CHID up, so he could get inside you. But we know that he's not going to get inside the elect. He's gonna get through the 2/3 and have them micro CHID, but not the elect, because Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is going to protect his elect. He's going to keep his elect. He's going to put the spirit on him to refuse to take the MOTB and to not bow the knee to this devil. Verse 20, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. That's right. That's what the elect are doing. They're not storing up these treasures here on earth, because Esau Edom, he can't get to the heavens. He can't steal those treasures that the elect are building up in that spiritual bank account. He could get to the riches that the 2/3 are storing up here in heaven, because these 2/3 mindset is, okay, I'm hiding these dollars and these gold and silver coins under my mattress. Shit, nobody could get to them. But when this devil crashes this system, it don't matter how much you got stored up, or how many bunkers you built, because ultimately you still got those missiles coming. And that's something that Jake doesn't consider. 2/3 Jake, verse 21, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And that's what the mindset of the elect is in the kingdom of heaven. Because ultimately we know that these corruptible riches here up on the planet Earth won't be able to deliver us. What's going to be able to deliver us is if we offered up the right sacrifice to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. If Yahweh Shai's blood is going to cover us. And we know that Yahweh Shai's blood is going to cover the elect, but it's not going to cover the 2/3 which are invested in this world. That's why 2/3 of Jake, they're going to completely bug out when all hell breaks loose, when the MOTB gets made mandatory, because they have no understanding. They're not going to know what to do because they were too busy invested in this current world, which is passing away. This is Isaiah 33 and verse 6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, is his treasure. So this is what's going to keep the elect in these current, not just in these current times, but in the upcoming times, when there's not going to be any internet, when the prophets out on the highways are going to be taken off, when the internet will be shut down. At that point in time and period, the elect are going to have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding inside of them. They're going to know what to do. They're going to know not to take the MOTB. They're going to know what prophecies are playing out and how it's going to end and how it's going to play out, while the 2/3 are going to be bugging out, completely void of judgment, in that reprobate spirit, not knowing what's going on, not knowing what to do, not knowing what the MOTB is. They're going to be completely bugged out of their minds, because they had that mindset that I'm going to trust in these riches. I'm going to trust in carnal means, and I'm going to trust in this bunker. I'm going to trust in gold and silver to deliver me. But ultimately, that's going to get them destroyed. Because while the elect were being edified through the Spirit, being built up in the faith, the 2/3 are going to be building up carnally, storing up treasures in earth where thieves are going to break through and steal. But the elect are going to have that hope. They're going to be prisoners of hope, which is receiving deliverance through Yahweh Shai. But that's pretty much the point. Prayers this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Akakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from the well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Unto you I say Shalom.